moments, that's where I'll find a little room to breathe, leave it all behind. Give me room to breathe, I need some time to heal my heart, to clear my mind. Gonna love myself, yeah, I believe in the power of me. Just give me room to breathe.
Great new day to all my self-care family and friends. Welcome back to the Room to Breathe podcast. I am your host, Life Coach 614, and I'm so glad to have you here with us today. Now, before we jump into today's episode, just a quick reminder. If you're enjoying the vibe, show us some love by tapping the screen, liking, commenting, and of course, sharing the live. Your support helps us to reach more incredible souls on their healing journey. And if we're not already connected, go ahead, hit that follow button, subscribe to our channel, so that way you never miss a moment of what's next. I also invite you to head over to our website at theselfcareclub.org. We have some awesome affirmative apparel, motivational merch, and a bunch of free resources waiting just for you. It's all about empowering yourself and embracing your journey. And don't forget, green hearts in our chat represent our commitment to healing, growth, and intentional self-care. So if something resonates with you today, drop a green heart and let us know that you're tapped in and that you're growing with us. Now, today's guest is someone who doesn't just talk about purpose, he lives it. Ryan Hagen is here to help share his powerful story of what happens when you stop resisting and you start answering the call over your life. Ryan, we are so honored to have you here at the Room to Breathe podcast with us today. Can you take a moment to introduce yourself to our listeners and, tell us who you are and honestly what's lighting up your soul these days?
No, I appreciate it, Shante. Where should I start? Should I start back at kindergarten or further back?
In the beginning, right? As it was written, in the beginning.
No.
Take us to the Genesis.
I'll give you kind of my quick background. Raised in Vermont. It's a state up in the Northeast. It's very small. It's interesting, but a great opportunity to really kind of have that. I always call it a lifetime movie or lifetime movie upbringing, and really learned a lot from that. Took a lot from that. Moved down to Northern Virginia, and now I'm in Raleigh. That's the fast forward. I've been through a lot on that. I've been through divorce and blending families. My wife and I now have been together 11 years, and we both brought two kids to the party. So we've got 4 kids in a blended family. So we've been through all of that. We both had our kids, I say young. We were both probably in our 20s, mid 20s when we had our kids. So when we met, they were kind of around 4, 5 to 7. And now fast forward 13, what do we have? 14 years, they're 19 to 23, and they really, they're all independent. They're all doing their own thing. And my wife and I kind of went, okay, now, not that we built our purpose or our meaning around our kids, but you kind of go, okay, now it's an empty house. We're looking at each other. And I started to really look at, purpose and what it meant and what I could bring to the table and what I could do beyond, because I felt like we did a great job with our kids. We've raised them. They're independent. They're off flying. They're off doing their thing.
Yeah.
And it was really an opportunity for us to look at what can we do. So, I've in the last year and a half, almost 2 years, I've gotten really into purpose, and I've gotten into, if I can call out some of the things around it, like Ikigai and Dharma. These are 2 things that I've really dove into as far as taking a look at what are you good at? What does the world need? What are people needing? And how can you turn that into, and I kind of stay away from, if you look at Ikigai, I think the final one is how do you make money out of it? But it's more along the lines of if you're confident and you find your purpose and you're waking up every day going, I can't wait to, this day's awesome, because every day you find something new, you learn something new. So I feel like if you bring that confidence, you start building that, you start showing that, then, that's going to result in money. I'll call it reward.
Right.
And being able to bring that to the table. So anyway, long story short, that's kind of how I found the purpose. And I was at a point in my life where the kids were out. I was on a business trip, and I was going to meet with one of my VPs, and we weren't clicking, right? He wasn't understanding what I was saying. I was getting frustrated, and it was really affecting my mood. It was affecting who I am. And I thought, why am I going to let one person, really affect and turn me in that direction? And that's where I started. My wife and I are watching Blue Zones, and that talks about Ikigai. It's a documentary about these 5, I believe, areas of the world where there's the most 100-year-old people, and how do they get there? And you look at community, right? You look at purpose, you look at activity, you looked at the food sources. These are all things that make that up. So anyway, my wife pointed the shelf and she goes, "There's a book right there about Ikigai." I was like, I didn't even know we had it. I really dove into it, and just have really not fully adopted, because it's a commitment, but you take, you kind of learn from parts of it. And everything's a process. Everything's a, kind of a learning. Somebody asked me once, they're like, "Well, when I find my purpose, am I done?" And I'm like, no, that's the great thing. You're always reinventing, you're always finding it. And it kind of made me look at retirement as well and go, to me, I'm like, I'm going to take retirement off the table. So all I'm now looking at is going, I get to live my life, my day over and over again, and not in a Groundhog Day, but in a way that goes, hey, I'm going to learn something new this next day. I'm going to provide something new. And when I look at what my purpose is, or I call it my Ikigai, is really being able to bring joy, and being able to kind of inspire people as well to look at their life. I'm lucky enough in my company to be able to run a thing called Beyond the Desk. And it's an opportunity to be able to get with, on a monthly basis, I've got about 10 to 15 people that will join. And we just talk about, what's going on, what's your passion, what are your hobbies, what are some things you want to do outside they're going to refill your cup. Anyway, I just rambled for a while, so I apologize.
No, listen, this is your show. We're here for you, man.
So anyway, that's my story.
Gotcha. No, listen, and honestly, that's just the perfect setup, for the first question that I wanted to ask you, right? Because it's all about purpose. And, purpose is trending these days, but I don't think people fully understand like what that means. And I know that it's something that changes person to person. It's kind of like self-care, like they call me the self-care queen, but I'm like, there's so many areas of self-care. You know what I mean? So like, are we talking mentally, spiritually, emotionally? Like, what are we talking? What do you need today? So when you think about purpose and, walking in your purpose, like, what does that mean to you personally? And how has that definition evolved for you over time?
Yeah, great question. And also call out, by the way, Walking to My Purpose. Thank you, because that's how I found you, that song. And it really points to kind of, when I heard it, I was like, oh, this is exactly what I was thinking. So I appreciate that. But anyway, so when I look at it, it's not something, it drives me nuts whenever you see these reels or you see anything on Instagram that kind of says, hey, if you're doing this, you're doing it wrong. you're doing, it's kind of this almost shaming into, nope, if you're not making $1 million by 30, then you suck. You should be doing it this way. That's not, again, that's pointing, my point is, you can't tell somebody their purpose, but you can say, hey, here's some things to look for. And I do that within this Beyond the Desk is go and ask friends, right? What if friends say you're good at? And you're like, nah, I'm not, and you,
right.
Is there a way to, do you want to get into that? Do you want to get into entertaining? Do you want to get into cooking? Do you want to get into, hey, you're really good at, I have a friend of mine who's very good at planning trips. But he does it for his friends, and he won't. I'm like, do that, and not that you want to take everything that you do well and try to make it into a job, right? But is there a way to adopt it to a point where you're like, I'm going to dabble in this and see if it makes sense. I'm not going to quit and risk my family, because that's an all-in approach. But anyway, I think back to your question, purpose is something that, as you start to, and I can only speak for myself because I can't tell anybody how to find their purpose. I can't tell anybody what their purpose is just by knowing them even. But it's really what's in your heart, and it's really what makes you, and kind of the epiphany I had 1.5 years ago was that eye-opening goes, oh, this is a lifelong thing to figure out my purpose. This is awesome. And in a great way, because the journey is the fun part. I in the interview I had last week with Baden on my podcast, and we'll talk about it later. I mentioned to him, I said, the great thing about having a purpose is it's not a goal. It's not a goal. You can't say my purpose is to make $1 million. that's achievable. Some people, but that's not, because then you get there and you go, okay, now what? There's no fulfillment. There's no, and I say that in a way that just goes, there's no extension above that, because what do you go for next 5 million? And that's going to make you feel any different. It's kind of that dopamine effect that you lose it as you move along.
Right.
So I think with purpose, you say, hey, I have on a daily basis have multiple opportunities to bring joy and to inspire people. So I can keep doing that. There's no, I don't get to somebody, I make them laugh, right? They, do something and I go, I just fulfilled my purpose. I'm done.
Yeah, I'm done. Show's over.
Show's over. Go home, pay your tabs.
Right. Like pay the man on your way out the door. Thank you very much.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that's a hard thing. Like when I first started life coaching, I just wanted to be able to get people to truly understand that self-care had so many different areas, because, society makes us think self-care is going to the spa, going to the gym, like those are all forms of self-care, but that ain't it. Like, that's the easy part. Like I wanted people to understand like the deeper, and that once people started to tap into that it unlocks so much more for them. And one of the things that I learned, when I first started coaching people was, like everybody's afraid of their purpose because they have this idea of what it's supposed to be. And so like the beginning, like almost all of my clients, I struggle with when it comes to their purpose. And I'm like, but what do you like? And then, just teaching people like what purpose actually means. Not what it looks like, but what it means to walk towards your purpose and to find your purpose, and to understand that, purpose and passion is not always the same thing. Like you said, you have a friend who loves booking travel, but they don't know if they want to do that for a living because, then I might lose some of the edge off of it, like me, painting. I love painting. I'm passionate about painting. It's a form of self-care for me, but I don't want to paint for a living.
Sure.
I don't I don't mind painting, and then if I have an overflow of paintings, selling them, but I don't want to get paid to pay, like, you know what I'm saying? So it just kind of ruins it.
And that's the interesting intersection of that, because you don't want to lose. So I mean, same thing with me. I love cooking. Now I'm not going to go to a restaurant and get a cooking job, because first off, I'm not going to, that's a tough gig.
Yeah.
You're up till 12 or 1 in the morning, and you're back in the kitchen. But I enjoy it, and it's something I like to do at home, and my wife's appreciative of it. But that's to that point, how does that match? And my son is always talks about making beats. He's in his room all day, makes beats as far as in his apartment. But and we're like, hey, can we see him? He's like, nah, they're just for me. I'm like, wait, what is he? So and these may be awesome. And I'm like, well, what about maybe putting them out there and offering to other people, to other artists? And he's like, nah, it's kind of selling out. And I'm like, so you can't say to someone, well, your purpose is to do this, so do it. You got to let them find it, and maybe open it up, and also share stories. I found this to be interesting and really worked with me as well. When you hear and see different people, and that's why I love doing what I'm doing now with these podcasts, and you're doing with your podcast, is when you hear the experiences of other people and you go, oh, I thought, I didn't know that was actually, I've kind of, didn't give that thought any recognition, because I'm like, nah, I'm being crazy. Then you hear somebody else like, wait, you did that? Okay, cool. Let's do that. I heard this one speaker, and it still sticks with me. And I can't remember the exact story, so I might slaughter the story, but it goes back to, the first person who did a flip on a motorcycle, a backflip. And it took so long for somebody to do that. And that one person did it. And then within the next X Games, that was the simplest thing to do. Like, it took so long to get there. You saw one person do it, and you're like, oh, I can do that. I can try. And that kind of points to that, around being able to share these stories and say, hey, that's a normal thought, or that's a normal thing to experience.
Right. That's literally like when I first started doing the Room to Breathe music, I simply was making music to use during my podcast to avoid copyright drama. Right. So I was like, oh, I'll make this. And so then people were like stopping me, like, hold on, what's that song? Oh, how can we get it? So I'm like, oh, well, you want it? So I put it on my website. And then people
That's
are like,
awesome. Yeah.
oh, I wish I could get that on Spotify. I wish I could do this. And I'm like, well, hold on, so it wasn't until I decided to create something and I put it out there just for the podcast purposes. I thought that's why I was doing it, but God had other plans and he was like, no, I just need you to make it. I'll bring the people to it, and it was like, wow, like that was a further reminder for me that, I'm being obedient in my purpose because, it's like, I feel like God puts things on us to do sometimes. And then we are like, no, I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? And I think back now, like it's been a year since I've been doing the music. And I just think back, like, if I would not have been obedient, like I wouldn't even know you, Ryan. Like,
that's true. That's true. If you had said, "Oh wait, I'll catch the next train,"
then Ryan would have been like, "What am I gonna do now?"
That's right. That's right. My podcast might not even be here.
Maybe might be called something different. You never know. I don't know what you'd be playing.
I don't either.
Yeah, but I honestly love, like you said, that thrill of waking up every day and being like, what's today? Like what's new today? And like you said, not that Groundhog's Day, because I'm thankful and grateful that I wake up every day in my right mind, because it's not something I take for granted. But, for me, I'm so passionate about like self-care and purpose all rolls into that. And I know that it doesn't look the same for everybody in every season. And, I think that that's a story that we need to keep telling and that people need to keep hearing, because they think that finding your purpose is like one and done. You know what I mean? Oh, I found my purpose. See you later.
It's an ongoing thing, and it's ever evolving.
Yeah. They're like, how often do I have to do this? And I'm like, oh, every day that ends in Y. Yeah.
And I think part of it too, from a purpose standpoint and being able to understand is understanding and almost being empathetic in the way that you can't force somebody to have a purpose. You can't call out what their purpose is, but you can go, hey, from your standpoint, why wouldn't you look at it like that and try to understand and try to talk through it? Because from our side, from the outside, you're kind of looking at somebody going, you're awesome at that. People love when you do it. Why aren't you? And there may be a reason. And they go, oh, okay, that makes sense. And it's more taking them through a workshop to get to that point, because you want it. I don't know if finding your purpose is like what's it called with all the people that work out in these gyms that are like carrying logs. What's it called? I can't think of it. Anyway, so
I'm like,
I know. Why can't I think of the name of it? Anyway, boot camp or the boot camps they have in the morning or whatever, and they carry these tires. They want to tell everybody about it, just like people with motorcycles. They want to tell everybody about it. So people with purpose, I'm the same way. I'm like, hey, you want to talk about purpose?
Yeah,
you want to talk?
Right. It's like we found the golden ticket, and we just want to tell you.
I just want to share. Like, I just want to share.
I just want to talk to you about your car's extended warranty. Like, let me tell you.
Exactly.
So I know that many of us have experienced like a quiet moment, like maybe like a gut feeling or the gentle nudge that something bigger is calling us forward. And sometimes I think it starts before we can even really name it. Are you able to maybe take us back to a moment when you first felt like that tug towards something greater? Something that looked or felt like purpose for you?
So, yeah, I mean, like I said, a year and a half ago is when I kind of started putting a name to it, or being able to say, oh, somebody else has gone through this, or there is something that makes sense. But I used to do a podcast called Dad's Gonna Dad with a buddy of mine, and just had the most fun doing it. And, we broke up. No, we didn't. He's still my friend. But he was very much script driven. He was very much, hey, we need to do this. And we'd bring on different dads and we'd talk about kind of dad stuff, right? What are you feeling about this? How are you doing this? And just, it was so much fun. And I had a lot of people that came to me afterwards. We did, I think, 12 episodes. And then kind of like life happened. I mean, my kids were getting older, so it wasn't really my schedule, but he's got she's 9 or 10. He's got it was like young dad, old dad. We were going to do that theme. But he, anyway, he got busy with obviously her schedule. We kind of fell off of that, but I had a lot of people who were like, "Hey, are you doing a podcast again? Are you doing this again? Are you doing this again?" And one thing I've always, I'll say recognize, or again, I go back to that empathy word, but I've always been amazed at people in all different walks of life, all different types of jobs that just brought a different energy. And I feel like those are the people that have, kind of this purpose. And I was reading through the Jay Shetty book, this Think Like a Monk, and he calls out these two sets of janitors and or custodians. And the one just kind of did their job. They would walk around, mop, do all their stuff that from a custodian or janitor standpoint. And then the other was like, in the interviews, was like, yeah, I do that, but here's what I also bring. I clean rooms for these people that are trying to survive or trying to live through cancer. I, clear the way for them. I provide a environment that's going to be to allow them to get better and to kind of recover. So they took it on themselves to really see what they were bringing to the table, not just clean floors, not emptying trash cans. They brought this whole thing. So to me, it's always something I've been interested in and thought about. And then when I started myself going through that, I kind of said, from the podcast standpoint, I'm like, hey, I want to go out and talk to people about this. I want to interview people. Like I've got, I've got people that are lined up. Last week was Baden Jackson on my podcast, and he started Putt Park Shuttle. Former UNC basketball player, did pro basketball for 12 years, and then bought this short bus and puts 22 dogs on it in a day, and just drives around to parks. It's like, why? Why would you do that? And, and he loves it. He went through the joy that he brings to the community, and just that kind of filling that gap. That was unknown. Nobody thought, hey, I wish there was a bus that came and picked up my dog so I would take it for the day and wear it out.
Right.
So he filled that unknown hole. But the thing about it that he loves is just when he drives around and people honk at him, yell at him, as far as just see the bus. I have an interview actually this afternoon with somebody else who's doing a lot for the community around restaurants, kind of a pay-as-you-can type thing. And so she's doing that, and just kind of the homelessness and food deprived and all these different things that she's doing. So those are the people, that I want to find out what makes them tick, what makes them different in the world. I mean, I kind of put it back on you, and I know I'm going to bring you on my show too, so I can ask you the same things. But the self-care side of it. And I know we joked in our, I think we had a conversation last week or the week before around, my wife's a former esthetician. So when I think of self-care, I automatically go to that, which again is that outward self-care, but it affects your inward. It affects, kind of who you are and gives you that feeling of, just feeling good. I mean, that's when we look at, being able to affect your inner, your inner mental, your inner mind and who you are.
Right.
The outward effect that you feel is important as well. So that's way kind of from a self-care standpoint as well. When you look at all of it, I mean, just like going to the gym, I go out for walks. When I go out for a walk, it almost is more about my mental than my physical, because I'll put on a podcast or I'll just listen to something, or I'll just no headphones, but it's just, I need to clear my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing about all of that, is like when we feel that first inner shift, it often ends up being like the seed that we plant that leads to everything else that is following. So it's like, normally I feel like when we start to kind of walk in our purpose, we plant that seed, but we have no idea what's about to grow. It's like someone says, here, plant this. And you're like, what is it? Like, I don't know what it is. Yeah. But the beauty of it is we keep coming back every day to see, okay, what is this turning into? What is this going to be? And I always think that it's so beautiful. Like, I love working with my clients and watching them plant the seed. And then I keep showing up with them to be like, what's it going to be? What are we going to do now? Like, okay, this happened. So what do we do now? Because it's always those early signs no matter how subtle they are, that carry so much weight in our journey as we continue to walk. And I know firsthand that the journey isn't all clarity and momentum. Like it's a crazy ride. You know what I
It
mean?
is.
And,
It is.
sometimes I feel like people give up when they're just on the break. You know what I mean? And people have to realize that purpose is forged in fire. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And so, even just thinking about that, like even thinking of maybe, I don't want to say the dark side of purpose, but that's kind of, what it is.
Yeah.
What's maybe one failure or challenge that ended up being the key turning point in your journey?
Yeah, that's interesting because, and again, I had this conversation with a friend of mine recently around mistakes, right? And things you regret. And I feel like earlier in my life, I was like, I regretted I didn't go to college. I regretted I didn't, maybe I shouldn't, I should have seen, as far as a divorce, right? You don't want to go through things like that. Been through some financial issues, you come out of those and you look back and you go, oh man, I wish if I hadn't done this, I wouldn't have gone through that. But then now when I get to a point, I just turned 50 a month ago or 2 weeks ago. But you get to a point and you look back and you go, no, I needed all those.
Yeah.
I needed those. And so to your question, as far as from a purpose standpoint, is just, not opening your eyes, not looking at something as something you go through as kind of a point in life where you go, I learned from that. Now I'm going to move on. And getting away from, man, if I hadn't done this, I wouldn't, if I hadn't done this, I wouldn't have whatever. If I had finished college, it would have been easier in my 20s. If I had, not married my wife, I wouldn't have gone through divorce. There's these things,
Right.
But then I wouldn't have my kids. And there's all these things that kind of go into it. And I say, okay, well, I am completely open-armed into accepting the mistakes I made, accepting, the dark spots I hit, because I feel like all of that has shaped me into who I am now. And I'm just in an amazing place personally, in my heart, to be able to go, yeah, I am who I am because of all that. I am who I am because of the mistakes I made. Luckily, none of those mistakes, changed the trajectory of my life. We've all made some mistakes where we look back and go, I got lucky on that one.
You did that.
Yeah. So, but again, you shape that shapes you. I've been there, done that type of thing. That's kind of the way I look at it. There's nothing I would be able to put my finger on. It's just overall life happenings. And you've got to have those. And even with the kids, you teach them, you show them, you hope they hear and learn from you, but they're going to make their own mistakes. And you hope they're ones that don't affect their life in a negative way, but you also hope that they make the types of mistakes they're going to learn from is going to shape them.
Absolutely. And I think what I love the most about your answer is how you didn't shy away from the messiness of the growth. It's like you look back and you're like, okay, yeah, I probably shouldn't have did that. Maybe I could have did that, but you're like, but here we are now. And I guess the best part of that is sometimes I feel like in the breakdown situations, like that's where we recognize that breakdown is actually a breakthrough happening to us. Yeah. And I had to learn how to stop saying, oh, this is happening to me. Right? Mm-hmm. Like, why is this happening to me? Because that's like the golden question that we all ask at some point in life. Like, why does this all keep happening to me? And I had to learn that it's happening for me. So yeah, I had to, marry this one to realize that this is not what marriage is supposed to be about. To get to appreciate, the second marriage, things like that. And so, oftentimes, like I said, we miss the fact that breakdown was intended to be a breakthrough. And, I just did a discussion about storms, and people complain when it's storming, not realizing that storm is meant to do two things. Number one, it's meant to tear down things that aren't supposed to be anymore. And it's meant to reveal the things that are solid. You know what I mean? To show you
Mhm.
that it's here
Mhm.
for you. And, you know, most of the time we only recognize that lesson in hindsight. You know, they always say like hindsight is 2020. So you can
Yeah.
always see the red flags when you're a million miles away, you know, when you've gotten in a car and headed for the hills, like we're not doing this anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a great point. And one of the things I also, you know, I go to the sports, right? The agony of defeat and the thrill of victory.
Yeah.
We wouldn't know victory if we didn't have those dark times. We wouldn't know what it feels like to be happy. We wouldn't know what it feels like to wake up in the morning and go, I can't wait to see what this day brings. If we hadn't had the days, because definitely I've had the days where you wake up and go, oh, another one,
Yeah.
another
Like
day.
again.
So we have had those groundhog days. And again, I think one of the things I think it's one of your albums is called, not unregrettable. What is it? Unapologetic.
Yeah,
Unapologetic.
confidently
So
me unapologetically. Yep.
I love that because, that's one of the things and I mean, it takes time, right, to build the confidence, but unapologetically, it's like, I am who I am because of this. And here I am. So I love that word on general.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and I think it's all part of the human experience. It's just like making mistakes. People get so bent out of shape when they make a mistake. And I'm like, everybody messes up. Like me and my friends were like, oh, we're really quick to be like, I shitted that up. Like I messed that up, but I'm reminded like everybody poops. Sorry, not sorry. We all make mistakes. It's part of the human experience. And so
that's true.
That's what makes life worth lifing. You know what I mean? Like to know that we're going to have some good days, we're going to have some bad days, but like, I'm just thankful that I still got days. You know what I mean?
You're right. And you look at it, I mean, when you're allowed to make mistakes, it makes you live freer. It allows you to, when you're allowed to make mistakes, it allows you to grow a lot more and be able to find those wins.
Absolutely.
I didn't read that off a poster in front of me. I'm just
No, not at all. I mean, there's no affirmation card on your wall right there.
That's what for your podcast, I just put all my affirmations up on my wall. I'm going to read them throughout.
Look, I got mine too. You see a little preview of it behind you. Follow your heart.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
no, yeah. It's fun to be at this point and be unapologetically confident in that. I know every day I'm going to wake up going, what's today got? I'm excited. Bring it.
Absolutely. Was there ever a time that you resisted your purpose?
I don't know if it's resisted or just didn't have my eyes open to see it. Felt too busy. Felt too more along the lines of trying to, and again, being in those negative spots, waking up in the morning going, oh, another day that I'm not, what's going to happen in a bad way. Now I'm waking up going, what's going to happen? What am I going to learn? What am I going to experience? Where before it was kind of, and it wasn't all the time, but, you go through these things in life where you just, you almost go, all right, I need to focus on either finding a new job, trying to repair relationships, try to pay bills. You're caught up in those. So your eyes are not open to purpose. Your eyes are not open to yourself to be aware of what's going on. So at a time where I feel like finding your purpose is the most important, you're missing it. And I was guilty of that. I am guilty of that in that situation. That's a tough thing to say I look back at my old self and go, if somebody had said it to me, I'd be like, yeah, whatever. I gotta find more money. I gotta fix my relationship. I gotta fix what's going on. I don't have time to do this side thing of purpose. Where if I had known purpose is what brings everything out to me, being able to kind of bring out who you are, your authentic self.
Yeah. I think if people would also tell us with purpose comes like alignment and a need to surrender to certain things, you know what I mean? Because it's like once you start walking in it, you're like, if I would have just surrendered to this all the way back then, like who knows where I would be now, you know? I think for me, the surrender probably is the biggest part. And I'm constantly saying obedience because when I say like my most recent walk in my purpose, I feel like it has truly stretched me. And not in a bad way where I felt like I was lacking something or missing something, but like a challenging way that has grown me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, there's it's like a vulnerability that comes when you finally decide to give in to your purpose. Because honestly, there are plenty of days I wake up and like I do my podcast Monday through Thursday solo. And then I have a guest on Fridays. So every morning I'm waking up like, okay, God, like, what are we going to talk about? And I feel like I get this download.
It's just the two of you?
Yeah, just me and the Lord. Okay. And I'm like, what are we going to talk about? And I feel like I receive like this download to be like, okay, share this. But then I'm like, but who am I talking to? Like, because I'm being very vulnerable.
There's somebody listening.
Live. Yeah, and that's the thing, Monday through Thursday, I'm live, just having this conversation with myself in my office, and I just sit there like, what was the reason for this? But it never fails. By the end of each one, there's someone who came in there like, oh, I needed this. Or I'll push the button and be like, I needed this. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, God, I see what you did right there.
Yeah. No, it affects. Yeah. I mean, that's what, like I said, with this monthly meeting at work I have that I've been, again, I thank you to my company to say, yeah, you can do this. We bring 15 people together and sometimes I get to the end of that and I'm like, did I just ramble for, an hour with some stories, but then there's people sharing stories. And then I'll get a Slack afterwards or an email afterwards that says, hey, can we do this every morning? I needed that before I kind of started my day. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, to me, there's some of those things you share, you go through and you kind of go, did that hit? Did that make sense? And then somebody's going, yeah, it made sense to me. And you're like, okay, then it worked. That's validation, right? You got that one person. That's all it takes. Exactly.
Yeah. And, I think too, these sort of moments, like our podcast, the round table that you do at work, like, I think that also starts to, reveal or encourage more authenticity, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? It helps people then start to show up, because I think that before we can fully walk in our purpose, we have to be willing to walk in our truth. It takes you and me to be vulnerable in front of people and, share our stories and for them to say, oh, you know what, this is real life. This is a real person. And, we start saying, me too. I'm stressed too.
Yep. No, you're right. And the frustrating part, and I'll give you a quick pop quiz. Do you know the percentage of male versus female that were in my last one? There were 15 people last week. And you know what percentage was male and female?
I'm going to say probably more female than male. That's just a guess.
100% female. There were no guys.
Yeah.
And so
I get that. Men are scared of growth. Like when it comes down to self-care and purpose and health therapy and all of that, it's not the manly thing to do if you let society tell the story. You know what I mean? Yeah. Even though, like, if people believe that, like, the man is the head of the household, quote unquote, then why shouldn't he pour into himself too? Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. We lean on the men to be the protector, the provider, our security, all of these things. But if he not wrapped too tight up here, like, what we gonna do?
Well, yeah. And I feel like it's a whole different show, but you look at right now with society, with the things you see it again, I point to Instagram, but that's what people look at on a daily basis. Yeah. I mean, and also the news. And it's like, I don't think by going through this, I don't think by sharing my story or having the discussions about it, I'm losing any masculinity. I don't think I'm losing anything. I shouldn't be getting up at 4 a.m. doing tour workouts and then, a cold plunge. Exactly. But I think being open to it, unapologetic, being authentic, is something that's important. And I don't know, right now, I think there's just a society check which way we're going to go. And again, like I said, it's a different conversation, a different hour, but it's frustrating because again, I think there's an opportunity there for people to go, yeah, I can still care about purpose. I can care about my mental well-being. I can care about other people and still and I'm gonna speak directly for me, be a man. And I can still have the, be who I want to be. It's an interesting, kind of discussion on it because I think it goes into purpose. It goes into who we are. It goes into how we deal with other people in society and how society is going to go forward. So I don't want to go too deep, but it's an interesting conversation.
Ryan's coming back for another show. That's all I hear. No worries.
I know.
But I think it's something that really is important to raise that awareness to. And, even just being a woman, if I was seated at that round table, it would also just raise awareness to me that I need to then pour into the men in my life. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like I'm constantly trying to pour into like my son, my husband, because I want them to understand like this is for you too. And despite what society says, you are more than going to the gym and, doing this and doing that. Like self-care is more than that. Your mental health is important. Your spiritual health, like all of these things are important. And, everybody deserves to find their purpose. Everybody deserves to have a life that is balanced on, your obligations, like your responsibilities and your passions, things like that. Like you shouldn't have to pick or choose. Do I take care of my family or do I do what feels good for me and makes me happy? Like you should be able to have it all. But society will try to tell you that you cannot. Like they're like, oh, you can't have it all. You have to be a responsible man taking care of your family, or you have to be a starving artist, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. But
in the same boat, if you're on social media, then you should be making $5,000 a day just in ads. No, it doesn't work out that way. You're doing it for a purpose. You're doing it for something that is based on, almost surface. And I feel like we've gotten away from deeper. I feel like we've gotten away from being able to have relationships and discussions that are going to be, beneficial for community, beneficial for groups of people, and not just yourself.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like, and again, you can, news-wise, society-wise, you always hear that this certain, this group is under fire and everyone's against us. And I'm like, no, it's a victim mentality. So you look at, you go, no, these things we're doing in life and the DEI type stuff is not against anybody. It's for people. So anyway, that's on pause.
Yeah, that's another one. Listen, but it makes me think too of like this whole thing now with the whole cancel culture. Like that goes back into people saying, okay, a person made a mistake. Now you want to cancel them out. Like you can't just cancel a person's existence because they messed up. They made a mistake, no matter how bad it is, like people deserve to be rehabilitated. We all deserve to redeem ourselves. You know what I mean?
And it's evolving. Like, yeah.
And I'm like,
sorry. I was listening to I think it was some comedian or whatever. It was like, well, I can't do the stuff I used to do because of this cancel culture or something, or they're going against the First Amendment. I'm like, well, no, you can still say what you want to say. Yeah. It's consequences. You can still say it, but also we have evolved. We look at things that as we move forward and go, you look back and go, that was pretty crappy. When you look at other interviews, you look at things in the 90s, and I grew up in the 90s, but you look at things back there, you're like, ooh, oops. Yeah. That doesn't line up, and it shouldn't have. But again, to your point, being able to look at it and go, yeah, we're not canceling people, but we're saying, hey, are you somebody that wants to listen and learn? Because there are people that do get canceled and they double down on it. It's like, oh, well, that's your own, now your consequences, you just can't, you're not going to get hired.
Yeah. Like I don't need to lead a movement. If a person does something and I feel like they wronged me or, my community, whatever it is, okay, I'm just going to exit stage left. I'm going to bow out gracefully. It's like that gif with Homer Simpson backing into the bushes. I'm like, I'm out of here. I don't need to climb
That's
to the
right.
highest mountaintop and be like, Ryan, come with me. We're
Yep.
not friends with them anymore. Like, I just feel like
Yep.
it's so childish. You know what I mean? It's like throw your
Yep.
sucker in the dirt and go home. If you don't
Yeah,
like
it's a consequence. You're not.
Yeah.
We're not going to hire you, or I'm not going to talk to you. Whatever it is.
Exactly. And I feel like, bringing it back to purpose, I guess purpose starts as like an internal calling for us, but I think that it is so deeply nurtured in the community. You know what I mean? Because when you start doing things that are about your purpose, it becomes bigger than you at some point. Like you're just a vessel that, God is using to accomplish something bigger than you. But it has to start within, you know what I'm saying? Like it has to start within you. So then you can take it to the street. So you can take it out there to the community.
Yeah. And again, I think, it's a great point as far as you said, leading a movement or whatever, but the people we talk with on a daily basis, the people we interact with on a daily basis feel that. I can feel it from people. Like I said, when I'm somewhere, it could be at, the Chinese restaurant down the road. It could be at the pizza place. Not that I go around and eat everywhere, or it could be at, DMV, and you find that person that's really giving you just the attention, and you just feel it from them. And it could also, I felt it from CEOs to janitors. It's not a status thing. It's more of okay, you know how to talk to people and you genuinely care. So I feel like my own thought is that person kind of understands their purpose. They understand what they're bringing to the table, and they're able to genuinely connect and be able to communicate with everybody. And it just brings you leave that conversation, you leave that meeting with that person and go, that feels good. Even if nothing accomplished, but just you feel good because you've had a conversation that's genuine and meaningful.
Yeah, no, and that totally resonates with me. Like I noticed when I started doing the work on me, like trying to better myself, not to prove myself to anyone else, but like it was for me. You know what I mean? Like I just wanted to be a better me so I could be a better mom, a better wife, a better daughter. But I noticed that when I would go out into the community, once I started doing the work on me, I felt like the community became a mirror reflecting who I was becoming. So I started noticing the universe delivering like the right people to me. You know what I mean? Like giving me the right energy. It was almost like everybody that I met, we were matching energy. So all the things that used to trigger the road rage or the clapbacks or all the trolls being around and stuff, like the universe was like, we're going to go ahead and take them away from her because she's doing the work. She don't have to worry about this stuff no more, And so I think that the more we start to also pour into ourselves, like I said, we start building ourselves up to be able to match energy, but not for us to stoop back down to somebody else's level. I started seeing the world differently from honestly like a more positive light. Like it's something where like, a person who's like pessimistic all the time, but now all of a sudden you see that they're more optimistic because something in life has happened to them. And they're like, now I'm thankful and grateful for life when they used to be really negative before,
I mean, you look at it like, I mean, I know I bought a Jeep Grand Cherokee a few years ago. And I was like, oh, it's a cool looking car. I don't think, this color, I don't think I see it much. And all of a sudden I started seeing this car everywhere. And I'm like, wait, I thought I was I know it wasn't unique. I mean, it's not a unique car, but I thought it just all of a sudden I started seeing it everywhere. So to that point, right, you find your purpose, you start living in this positivity, you start living in this meaning, you attract that. And you also see that everywhere. So rather than the guy cutting you off and you're always getting angry, why is everyone always cutting me off? Why is everyone trying to fight me? Well, it might be you, because personally, I don't get in many fights. So it might be you walking around bumping into people or just not caring. So it's interesting that you kind of put it that way, because it put that analogy in my head where when you see a commercial, you're like, I've never even heard of that. And all of a sudden you start seeing it everywhere, outside or in the store or whatever. It's the same thing with positivity. You start living that life, you start feeling that life, you're going to attract it and see it.
Absolutely. And of course, with every opportunity, we always are faced with distractions as well. I've learned firsthand that purpose requires us to stay clear. We have to stay present, because just as quick as it comes, it'll disappear on you. Like, oh, you're not ready? Try again. Like back to square one. How do you discern between opportunities that align with your purpose and distractions that pull you away from it?
Well, I mean, again, unapologetically, I fall for the distractions sometimes too. You just got to pull yourself back straight in line and just look back. I mean, I look at it like, so, I try to stay away from, carbs. So I'll I'll go a couple days and then I'll have some pizza, and the next day back at it. So, when you look at the journey is never right. A to B straight line.
Right.
There's going to be distractions. There's going to be things that pull you out of it. I do a lot of, like I said, I do the walks. I do a lot of walking, just kind of get out of the house. I work from home, so I can't go into the conference room. I can't go to somebody else's cubicle and have a conversation. I've worked from home for the past 20 years, long time. But my walks are important. My walks are something, and living in North Carolina when it's 108 degrees out and humidity, it's still, I mean, maybe I'm sweating out the bad stuff. I don't know, but I still will go and do that. But I talk a lot about, with my group, as far as filling your cup. And those cups can get empty. Having, people always laugh because they're like, well, no, you love talking to people. I'm like, yeah, but I don't like going into conversations, or I don't like going into meetings or whatever you call them, networking events where I don't know anybody and I got to start a conversation. That's going to drain the heck out of me. So I'm going to leave there going, I just need to go in a dark room.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so it is. So it's knowing that and recognizing that. That's one of the things I always talk about around refilling your battery, filling your cups, whatever you want to call it. But more importantly, recognizing what empties it, because you're going to have all these cups that fill up, and those are the ones that keeps you good with your kids, keeps you good with your relationships, keeps you good with your work. It keeps you happy, keeps you, energized.
Right.
If you don't know what's emptying those and when to refill them, then you don't know. You're like, I don't know why I'm always fighting with my kid, or I'm always fighting with my boss, or I'm really affected by it. Like, oh, you know why? Because that cup that usually is one that keeps me level-headed or keeps me happy is gone, and I didn't realize it. So I think it's an important part of it is to understand what brings you down, brings those cups down, empties them, and being able to go, okay, I need to step away. I need to take a walk and refill it, or I need to maybe, go hit some golf balls, whatever it may be, to refill it and get away. That's what I look at it as.
Yeah, you have to know the capacity. Like, that's a big thing for me. I wake up every day and I know what it takes to keep me going, but then for me to learn what capacity I have for everybody else, especially being a life coach, because I literally make a living listening to everyone else's problems, and trying to help them through things. But it's like, okay, I know what I have to do for work. I know what I have to do for me. Then I also got a family. I also have friends, so it's like I have to figure out what size cup. And it's no different than when you go to Starbucks and you're like, I want a venti, a small, a tall, a trenta, because I need it today, But yeah, knowing, like you said, how to fill your own cup up, because I'm a firm believer that what goes inside the cup, that's for me. Nobody else. What goes in that cup is for me. But what overflows outside of my cup is for everybody else. And because I'm a giver, I want to make sure that my cup is constantly overflowing, which means I have to constantly put me first. I have to pour into myself first. But I also need to know what capacity of cup that I have for other people. So when they pull up to drink, I'm like, you're not getting a venti. You get a small today.
Cut off.
Because I got boundaries now,
No, that's a great point. That's a great call out, because and that's one of my things I need to personally kind of look at and understand more with people pleasing. I'm a people pleaser. And that is putting people before me. So I need to be selfish and not look at it as being selfish. And that's where I kind of, that balance is difficult, because, again, then I'm like, well, if I'm pushing them away or I'm being selfish, then are they mad at me? Wait, why are they mad at me? Should I go talk to them? It's just the whole thing.
Yeah.
So being able to make sure and recognize that is important as well.
Absolutely. Now, as we get ready to close things out, I want to give you the opportunity to speak directly to the listener who may be, tuning in right now, who might be feeling stuck, lost, or maybe unsure of what their purpose even is, because we've all been there before, right?
Yes.
So for somebody listening right now who feels stuck or disconnected from their purpose, what's the first small step that you would encourage them to take?
Yeah. Well, I think the first is open your eyes, in the way that, and again, we'll go back to being selfish, right? Being able to open your eyes and say, people are saying I'm good at this, whether it's, I had somebody that I was talking with that was good at making bracelets. And they started putting those out there, and they started a channel on Instagram, and then they, were able to kind of start sending them out, but just being able to kind of have that vehicle to be able to show purpose. The first step is really just being open to it, listening to other people.
Right.
People are gonna, your friend circle, and even people who maybe just meet you and go, "Hey, wow, you're really good at whatever," and you're like, "Oh, really? I've heard that before, but I don't know." And then you kind of, you get within yourself, and you're like, "Nah, I'm not that good. You're just being nice." But being open to that and exploring it. I mean, you go, hey, and you need to have those friends around you that aren't just yes people, but are supportive. So that you want supportive people that are going to be honest in the way that goes, "Hey, I know, I see your passion. I see you're very good at this. Let's do this." And I'm trying to think of examples. I mean, if you look at cooking, right? Hey, let's all get together, put something together. Let's see if that makes sense. Maybe we can do pop-up dinner parties. That's starting to come back. Maybe there's an opportunity to do something like that. And that kind of fulfills that entertainment. That's where I kind of come into play. I love doing those because I love to cook, but again, I'm not going to go get a cooking job, but I love to entertain. I love to, enjoy, bring joy to people. And it's an opportunity to do that. So, long story, open your eyes, but be open to people, being open to, the things you're good at.
Yeah. And, I know we sometimes think that purpose is this big, distant goal, right? But I really believe, honestly, your answer of open your eyes is more encouraging and practical than you think. You know what I mean?
Great. That's good.
It's like they tell you all the time, don't worry about the staircase, just take the first step. And you're saying first step, open your eyes, and it's not even your eyes. You just have to be open, right? Because sometimes we have to open our hearts, we have to open our ears. So it's really just be open to finding your purpose.
Exactly.
Because sometimes you don't see it. Sometimes you have to hear it. Sometimes you have to feel it, so just be open to it. So that's a big thing right there. You could have just said be open and drop the mic, and I would have been like, yeah,
but hey, this would be a quick podcast. I've been rambling the whole time.
You're like, how do you find your purpose? Be open. Boom. Thank you for coming.
You can find me on Purpose Unscripted.
Right. So listen, before we get too far gone, let's go full circle. And focus on Purpose Unscripted, because that's how we began, me walking in my purpose and your purpose being unscripted, your podcast and the platform that you're building. Can you share that with us? Let us know what that's about. And also, I want you to share with our listeners how they can connect with you, whether it's your podcast, your socials, or whatever other work that you might be doing right now that people can tap into.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, like I said, last year and a half kind of I opened my eyes, opened my heart to new things. Part of that is actually my wife and I started Se La Vino, which is a mobile wine bar here in Raleigh. It's not available in Ohio. Sorry, Shante. but
I'm a road tripper. Okay. See me
so
in a town near you.
We do private parties and weddings and backyard party, whatever it is. It's a little Piaggio Ape. It's got 4 taps on it. So that's Se La Vino NC on Instagram. And and I also just within the last month and a half started Purpose Unscripted. It's purpose.unscripted on Instagram. But really, it's talking about purpose. It's interviewing people that, as I mentioned before, that are living, kind of living their purpose. They really dove into it. They're more than open eyes, open arms. They completely became a part of it. It's what their life is built on. Like I was saying with the one I just finished or just put out there was Baden Jackson. He started up this pup park shuttle. And again, it's just about community. It's about purpose. It's about, one of the questions I do ask at the end, I'll give a little secret, but is what do you see as retirement? Baden's only 32, 33, so he's far from it. But when you think of retirement, you hear the word, what do you think of? Because, what's opened my eyes in the last year and a half as I get closer to it was I want to remove that finish line.
Yeah.
I want to remove that goal. I want to make it more of, hey, I'm going to keep living my life. I'm going to keep being active, being a part of the community, just doing things that fulfill me, which I feel like result in fulfilling other people.
Right.
So that's where you can find me. That's what I've been up to, and that's what I'm going to keep doing.
Yes. And you guys, I'll definitely be sure to share the links in the description so that way you guys can tap in. Listen, I'll be listening to the Purpose Unscripted podcast, y'all. Okay. I love it.
Thank you.
And it's not because my song is featured in it. That might
help
it, but that's not the reason. Yeah, it helps. It's a little incentive,
Hey, I just bring on the listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'll definitely share with our community because, like I said, we're not gatekeepers. Excellent. Have been sharing it in our Discord group as well. So hopefully it's bringing some people over there. I can't strong them. I can't be over there or else. But it's like that when I'm like, my friend Ryan has a podcast. You're gonna go listen to it. You better be nice to him.
Yeah, show me that you actually listened.
Yeah, throw some green hearts in the chat so he'll know you came from the self-care club.
That's right. I love that. That's a good idea.
But no, I want to thank you for showing up in your truth, sharing your heart with us today. I really truly appreciate you for even reaching out to me. Our meetup was interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say it, but it was purpose driven.
It was.
It was definitely not a mistake. The universe knew exactly what it was doing by pairing us. So I'm excited for this and to join you on your podcast and then whatever else happens thereafter. So
I love it.
So
great.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it, Shantae.
No problem. Thank you so much for being here today. And I hope you have an amazing day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ryan. See ya.
Bye.
To everyone listening, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Room to Breathe podcast. If Ryan's story spoke to your heart, if it reminded you that your path may be imperfect but still aligned, be sure to share this episode with someone who needs that same reminder. Remember, your purpose doesn't have to be polished, it just has to be lived. As always, I encourage you to keep breathing, stay positive, and remember that you will always be supported here at the Self-Care Club. So don't be afraid to take up space and make a little room for you to breathe. I pray that each and every one of you have an amazing day on purpose, filled with nothing but purpose, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon. Thank you.